Hey guys, welcome to episode 109 of Life on the Hulls. It's getting to be a pretty epic series. This I never anticipated it being 109, let alone probably 1,000 by the time I finish it. This week I've been putting in the forward starboard bulkheads. It's been a bit of a challenge because it's a dogleg bulkhead, so pretty interesting configuration I have here, and a lot of working out, a lot of standing back and looking at it, and that tends to be my life. I spend a lot of my time standing back, looking back and trying to work out what I'm trying to do next and what is the priority of what to do next, so that I make sure that I go forward in a logical fashion. This bulkhead's now in, it's coming up in a future episode, and it's been a pretty wild week with all the shutdowns and everything. It looks like I'm going to be able to continue working anyway. I only live around about 1 kilometre from my job site, so it's not really going to affect me, and to be honest, I'm isolated anyway, so pretty much nothing's going to change for me in these uncertain times. Thanks for joining me. Hope you get a lot out of this one. So lots to come, and my brother-in-law and sister-in-law Dave and Jackie were in the last episode. We got them on a last-minute flight. Basically, I think that was the last ANA flight to head to London on Wednesday night, just gone. So it's pretty sad seeing them go home about 5 weeks early. But sometimes it's best if you're just at home. There's nothing like home, really. We all know that. And I hope you're all well and keeping away from this stinking virus. It's just shutting down the world at the moment. For now, I've got enough materials and probably enough work to keep me busy for 6 months before I have to order anything in, apart from some small stuff. So nothing's going to change for me, and I'll be able to continue to produce the videos because there's bugger all else going on. So thanks guys, thanks for supporting me, and thanks for watching, and for all the patrons, thanks guys. Can't do it without you. Can't keep doing these videos without you guys. So thanks heaps, and don't forget to look at the composite shop. That I need to get the hours up on that watch time. Please, the sooner you subscribe to that, it's a lot of fiberglassing in that, and a lot of more finishing techniques. So get into it. Let's get boat building. Okay, so I've just finished a forward bulkhead up there. It's basically glassed in, it's filleted, it's tabbed. Now I'm going to do this second one here. I've come to the conclusion that these modules have a flange on them, and the modules are going to need to be slightly modified to fit within the bulkheads. It's important that we get the bulkheads in exactly the right place, and then the modules need to be basically adjusted to then be glassed in to the actual bulkheads themselves, rather than adjusting the bulkheads to the modules. I think that's more important that I do it as per the spec than those modules. Obviously the flanges are wider and thicker, and they'll need to be trimmed and then subsequently glassed, so that I can get everything level and flat and have beautiful finishes around the edges, so that I can then line the boat correctly. But what I've done here is I've basically lifted this bulkhead up by about 4 or 5 centimetres, or actually the width of a 2x4 or 4x2, and I'm going to be able to sand along the line along here to be able to then put the initial fillet in, and I'll also be able to wet once again, completely soak and wet the base of the bulkhead to make sure I don't get any water absorption. So essentially I'm going to sand this entire region with the bulkhead in place. I can get under it and make sure that I've got enough room to get that nice fillet on both sides, and we hope to get this in place this afternoon. It's already hit 35 degrees in here, so it's going to be pretty short working time, but it is a relatively simple operation. And once I get this one glued in place, I can then come in, clean up the fillet, do a second fillet, and then totally tab the thing in place. So pretty exciting times, and then I can start working on getting those modules in place so that I can work out the cupboard space underneath, all of my conduiting for my electrics, and everything else I need to do. So there's lots to go on here. I'm going to get on my knees and start sanding. Okay, so I've now sanded and prepared the whole line along the bulkhead. The next thing I need to do is basically remark it because I've sanded it. It's a bit dull where I've actually got that line, so I'll remark it, and then I have to put in my angle cleats all the way along to ensure that I get a direct position when I drop the bulkhead back into place. So first things first, I'll get this marked up. And that way I can mount the cleats exactly where they need to be. And then when I put the fillet in, the initial fillet to glue it down, it's basically just going to go straight in place and not have any ambiguity there. Oh, she's pouring it here. Now I've decided not to glue in the next part of the sole. I'm going to pin this bulkhead to the sides, because this is a walk-through bulkhead. It doesn't have a join to the sole floor. It joins to the sides and at the sides of the doorway or the companionway here. So I think it's good to get it in place. This other part of the sole can actually slide underneath it. I've made sure of that before I glue this thing in, just to ensure that I can still have a lot of flexibility with my working place beyond this bulkhead. But once this guy's in, I can start to do things like thinking about getting these purlins out of the way. So, and that has been a really big sticking point for me, this purlin. It's essentially been a hurdle for the last 2 or 3 years. I've been stepping over this hurdle. Now, granted, it's been keeping me fit, but it's one of those things that's starting to throw my hip out, and it's annoying the hell out of me. So one of those things, if I can get that out of the way, life's going to be a hell of a lot easier for Roscoe. So these cleats that I'm making, I'm actually covering them in packing tape so that when I glue them down, they're going to be removable once the bulkhead's glued in place here. I can pull it away and then tidy up behind it. It's the only way I've found that I can actually position this bulkhead without any ambiguity. But yeah, lots of packing tape. So what I do is I've already covered it in tape, but you know, because I used it the other day, it's a good chance the tape's been compromised. But everything covered in packing tape and then fold it over at the end so there's no chance of sticking. I've got to do about 20 of them. These cleats position this bulkhead absolutely dead square before I drop it in. So the idea is the bulkhead goes and drops into place all the way along these lines. So I'm going to put a couple on the chamfer panel here, a couple down below here, so I get an exact position once, and then probably a couple along this line here just for that extra security. And then I'm going to basically prop it up with a number of clamps and things, and have a couple of braces to make sure that I'm getting a dead vertical bulkhead. But yeah, pretty simple stuff. But what I have to do is pipe the mixture, the filleting compound, all the way in, and I've left myself around about a centimetre or, you know, 1/2 or 1/3 of an inch all the way along here, just to be able to go bang and drop it in place. But yeah, that's the method I use for this bulkhead. And as you can see, it's in, it's filleted, and the filleting is absolutely perfect here. Once again, even though I sealed this edge, this has been in, out, 100 times, you know, since I laminated the bulkhead. So what I'm going to do, I've just mixed up some vinyl ester. I'm going to let it sort of soak in, and on a hot day like today, I'll soak in with capillary action right up into that end grain, and I'm going to seal this before I sit it down. Very important, you do all these little things. That's the difference between a good built or a well-built boat and a badly built boat, is sealing the end grain. So I've got my catalysed vinyl ester. I've actually jacked up the catalyst a little bit, and I'm just going to basically really thoroughly soak it up under here. Make sure I get plenty in there. Bulkhead installation, take 1. How many takes do we get out of it?
1 take and that's it.
1 take. It's a 1 take bulkhead installation. I hope we get it right or we're rooted.
Here's the bin. And then you pull that out and then squeeze your shit in.
Toss this glove because this glove's catalyst on the wall. Oh, Mark!
No compo here, mate. There's no such thing as compensation.
Oh, shit. Hang on, go on. I'm going to squeeze under it. Alright, can you lift it?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, hang on, come on. Alright, we've got to get a little bit over here. Oh, my God.
Squeeze it in, honey.
The broke the leg. Whoa. Oh, yeah, we're going in.
You want to go in?
Yeah, we're going in. What do you mean? Right. What do you reckon, mate? She's in.
Looks like you're building the boat.
My buddy here, we're done it. It's in. What do you reckon, mate?
Well done.
Pretty good. How good's that? Main bulkhead in, front bulkhead in. It's filleted. It's got to be tabbed over the next couple of days. We've got a pretty busy few days coming up. We've got Ron coming down from Sydney. And yeah, basically we've got our bulkhead in and I've got a lot of work to do now.
That's the way it's supposed to be.
Good on you, mate.
Can't be coming here doing nothing all day. Now you got to tell the wife.
That's right, the pressure is on, the wives are after us. So we've just laid a perfect fillet here on our main bulkhead. Unfortunately, because I deal with vinyl ester, I'm not able to use a wet on wet technique here. I simply wouldn't have the working time like I would have if I was using a thickened epoxy. So my next best bet is to put a proper radius in here, as I've done here. Wait until it sets, and then I can come in and rip the peel ply off and simply do my tabbing, and that's what I'm going to do. So first thing tomorrow morning I'll be coming in and acting on the tabbing on that, very importantly on both sides here. But yeah, I've got the filleting pretty much perfect over here, all the way down here. Tomorrow morning we're going to be tabbing this bulkhead in full good, and then I'm going to be able to remove this purlin here, because what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to tie the deck side from there to here and get rid of this purlin, and I'm then going to be able to install my central bulkhead, which is a 25mm plywood with a layer of 600 double bias on it. So a pretty substantial piece of structure into the boat here. Down in here, I've got quite a lot of work to do tomorrow, tabbing this fella in, and I'm really looking forward to saying that I'm at the end of the tabbing of the main bulkhead in the centre at least. Later on I then have to continue on with this section here, and but I've got a lot of work to do down in the floor there. So yeah, that's the main one, the front one done, the central bulkhead done. This little hump doesn't belong here, I just left it there because Ed's saying it was there, and then I can move really rapidly, quite rapidly forward. Okay, so I successfully tabbed in the main bulkhead. I haven't quite done down on that other side there and on the stern side of the bulkhead, but as soon as I move that module I'll be able to do that. You can see that, beautiful and tabbed, and similarly on the other side, all the way down and all the way across. Now what my plan is to remove this purlin that's been in my way for the last 2.5 years, so pretty happy to get rid of that. I'm going to basically tie back a strap from here to the bulkhead, and then I'll be able to put in the central bulkhead, which actually goes along this line right here. It's a 25mm ply bulkhead with 600 double bias on each side, so it's a pretty substantial member structural member of the boat, and it's going to go in there. So plenty of good things happening here at the moment. In what seems like an age ago, when I first acquired the hull and was polishing it and gel coating it and ultimately laminating it, I bought these 7-metre purlins in an attempt to draw the hull sides in to match that of the deck mould. Now, the reason why I did this is because the deck mould had actually sat on top of the hull mould for some years and ultimately pushed the hull sides out to a point that if I just simply laminated the hull, then there would be a good chance the deck wouldn't meet the hull. So I took some careful measurements around about 2 metres apart off the deck mould all the way down the length of the boat, and then drew the hull sides in. And that's the reason why these purlins are in place. Now, to work out how to remove them without actually affecting that, now given that the hull is laminated, I've actually put in some support bracing. You'll notice a small wooden block there almost on the chamfer panel there. I've epoxied that in place, and then I was able to get a piece of hardwood and actually just put in a temporary brace and remove those purlins. Now, over the years, I reckon I've probably climbed over them a million times. It's a little bit like Chariots of Fire, where they're doing the hurdles every day when I walk in there, and it's starting to have an impact on my hips. It's starting to hurt my hips every time I have to step over them. I've been down to 2 of these purlins for around about the last year, but it was time to get rid of them. So bracing them in place prior to removing the purlins was the order of the day. I used some batten screws and just basically was able to brace the hull side back to the chamfer panel and remove these purlins. And what a fantastic moment that was for me. You cannot imagine what a big moment that was. It's a pretty momentous occasion. 2 years I've been tolerating this bloody thing. It's gone. There we go. Just not sure what to do with it now. Hang on a sec, just roll time's sake. Yes! Yes! Righto, so we got rid of the second purl. We've already got rid of the first one. Going to get rid of the second one. You ready, Johnny?
Ready.
Righto, hang on. Oh! It's the last time I have to climb over that. Righto, so we've got to get it down. Just get them out of here. Yes. So now we've got the bulkhead in place. We've made a measurement from here to the hull side, and I've drilled a hole with a hole saw down in here in the bulkhead so that I can tension the side back. But at the moment it hasn't moved, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did over time. So I'm going to be able to tension that back to a given measurement. How good's that? You can now move, mate. You can move. Oh, hang on, for old time's sake, Tom.
That's it.
How many times have we done that?
Got it from there.
Oh, hang on.
And you won't hit your head either.
Yeah, and I won't hit my head at least twice a day down in there. I'm hanging for that. Very, very good.